I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, May the 10th, brought to you in part by VitaFirm by Biozyme. Great genetics deserve great nutrition. Protect your genetic investment with VitaFirm Concept Aid Mineral. For more information, go to vitafirm.com. Board lagging, and you look at your spot live cattle futures month, which is June right now. It's $10 back of what last week's live negotiated price was on steers. And it's just ridiculous that it can't keep up even more than that. Now I realize that we're in a bastard month, they called them in May, that isn't traded, but still, that's your spot month. You'd think it'd be a little bit closer to that. I mentioned on our last visit that I think within the next 6 weeks, your fat cattle cash market is likely going to drop 10 bucks. So I guess there's your future right there. But the live cattle June contract actually showed some muscle on Monday. It opened the week and opened on Monday falling really hard, and then fought back 258 points by the close, and actually more than that at one point to close up there at 133.55. But when you've got your live cattle negotiated weighted average $10 more than that, you know, it doesn't really make you feel really good about that contract and its ability to shed some light on what your live cattle futures price is. But nevertheless, now on your feeder cattle futures, last Monday we saw your corn down 10 cents, and everybody made a big deal out of it. Corn was down 10 cents a bushel. And we couldn't really find any other reasoning other than that. And your May feeder cattle were up $5, over $5. Well, this Monday, corn was down 12 3/4 cents, and your May feeder cattle was up a quarter. So that doesn't, you know, there's no rhyme or reason how that stuff reacts. And like most of your analysts, your technical analysts, they've just completely gone to squiggly lines on the screen because nothing else makes any sense, and they've made up this horoscope or rules on your technicals that basically has an out for everything that happens, but at least they have something to talk about that tells them what they think the thing might do to get you to trade so they can get some more commission, basically. But that's kind of how that goes. But as we look into our fat cattle trade going down the line, we know that we got bigger numbers coming up, and significantly bigger. But we've never really had those numbers bigger this early in the summertime. And it's not even really technically going to be summer yet. It's going to be in the spring. But you know, our winter drought hit so hard, and I've always said winter time's a great time to have a drought. Well, yes and no, but our drought has been hitting for a long time, especially up in the northern plains and down in the southern plains too, and there just wasn't any forage for those cattle to eat. They had to go into the feedlot. They were gaining more. They're going to be done quicker. But now we're going to be seeing those big numbers of finished fat cattle come right at the same time that your packers are wanting and typically increase the change speeds and ramp up the harvest quite a bit. So it actually could pan out or cancel each other out a little better than what a lot of people are thinking. You know, as normally we come into August and we have those big numbers of cattle to work through. It's extremely hot. Everybody's tired of grilling already by that time, at least in the backyard. They're tired of their in-laws coming over every Sunday for a grilled meal, and they start backing off of things, and they're wanting to kind of slow the harvest down a little bit. But this could work out a little bit better for the way we like to do things. And if you happen to be asking yourself, well, why do we always have these big numbers of finished fat cattle in the summertime? Well, it's because everybody thinks that they need to spring calve. They love to calve those cows out in the snowbanks and in the mud holes, and when there's no daylight, and they just love that. If more of our producers would fall calve, we could spread that out a little bit. We could spread our numbers out. We wouldn't run into these big highs and lows in our supplies all the time, and all this volatility that producers nor feeders hardly ever get to take much advantage of. This bird flu deal is getting serious now. I mean, maybe as serious as it's ever been in this country, but the bird flu has already killed 37 million chickens and turkeys. That's got to help us at some point, guys. I realize that, that fowl is always going to be a whole lot cheaper than what beef is, but it's not going to be as big a percentage cheaper as what it normally would be, because there's not going to be near as much of it. Now, how many chickens do we normally have? Maybe 520 million. So there's still going to be plenty of chickens out there, but whenever you have 37 million chickens and turkeys that are already dead due to this disease, it's not good. And then the promotion of it, the exposure of it, doesn't make people feel good about eating chickens and turkeys. But there is a federal rule that if one bird tests positive, a commercial producer must destroy his entire flock, at least in that house, I guess, and maybe the whole farm. I'm not sure about that. But it's the worst in Wisconsin and in Iowa, and that's where they have a lot of those big houses up there. But it's got to make some difference at some point. Let's talk about your board for Monday. June live cattle were up 80 cents. Like I said, made that huge comeback after falling, $2 down right after the bell rang, and then went down and then came all the way back. So your technical people say that it got extremely close to a bottom there, and then bounced back. But what makes it do that, I have no idea. But 133.55 was the close on June live cattle futures, and still up 80 cents. August up just 2 cents at 135.37. Your back months were down 2 cents to down 72. May feeder cattle up a quarter, like I mentioned earlier. It wasn't up over $5, even though corn was lower, but May feeder cattle up a quarter at 159.80. August was down 47 cents at 174.22. That still sounds pretty decent. Back months on feeder cattle down a quarter to down 72 cents. Talked about the grains. They were all lower quite a bit. I mean, there's been getting lots and lots of moisture up there in the Midwest and all around where they grow most of your row crops. But corn down 12.75 cents. Ending regular trading at 7.72. Beans down 36.75, ending at 15.85 on regular hours trading. Kansas City hard red winter wheat down 6.25 at 11.64 cents a bushel. Your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region, 95,600 head. Seems small compared to the previous week's 119,800, as your packers were trying to show off for the hearings that were going on back there in D.C. And plus they were buying a lot of cattle for 2 to 4 week delivery that were going in on those numbers. But compare that 95,600 last week to the same week a year ago, which was 74,900. Talk about your live sales of steers and heifers in your 5-area feeding region. Last week they were $1 lower to $2 higher, spreading in a huge range from 138 to 150. And that 150 come in and clean up trading there late in the week, and I assume on some really top quality cattle, as some of your regionals are going all over looking for some really good cattle, because that's what they deal in as a premium quality product. But your weighted average on live steers last week was 143.42, which was actually 8 cents higher. Everybody thinks that we had a horrible week last week. We're actually 8 cents higher, even though Kansas was selling some cattle off the market late in the week, took some 139 and took some 138. Now I heard through my grapevines that I listened to that 138 was some kind of coon shit that they've been trying to sell for quite a while and couldn't get anybody to take, and they finally went ahead and took $1 cheaper. But your packers didn't mind advertising that 138, kind of get them set up for this market's fall. But your dress sales, steers and heifers last week, were $2 to $4 lower. ranging from 223 all the way to 234, but it was mostly 228 to 234. There wasn't much below 228. Weighted average on dressed steers 230.69. That was down 162 compared to the previous week's weighted average. Nationwide, last week we sold 109,200 head negotiated from coast to coast there. Negotiated grid added up to 43,300, and formula sales 256,600 head. But last week we did have about a third of those cattle, not quite a third, 33,100 head sold for the 2 to 4 week delivery, and a lot more of them sold beyond that, and then they don't get counted in to your spot current sales there. But 30% of those, and we thought it might be even more than that. The previous week it was 50,000 head that sold for the 2 to 4 week delivery. But you know, we packers are kind of getting things set up for them so they can really pull this market position back when they get into the heavier numbers. They're not going to need many cattle, so they can really resist what the feedlots are asking for those cattle. But at the same time, your cattle feeders know and they fear the bigger numbers of market-ready cattle, so they're trying to get in on current markets down the road there to get as many of those cattle sold as they can. So it's just works back and forth against each other. Box beef cutout values were higher, significantly higher on choice Monday afternoon, 258.29 up 385. Your selects down 193 at 243.13. Talk about what else is going on. Beaver County Stockyards, Beaver, Oklahoma. They've got a pretty good sale set up here for this Tuesday. Runs are lighter all over the country, guys, and it doesn't take very many yearlings to draw a crowd. Well, they're going to have 10 to 15 loads of true hard yearlings at Beaver County Stockyards, and they're going to have several of those loads weighing up around 1,000 pounds. And a lot of you feeders are looking for some big feeder cattle like that to put on feed. Thinking they'll hit a sweet spot in there, but a lot of 1,000-pound yearlings right there at Beaver County Stockyards. If you can't make it to the sale, you can watch it on dvauction.com, view and bid right there, and call in there ahead of time and make sure that you get approved so you can get on there and bid. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV Auction. Late in the day on Monday, sitting at 156.33. That was up 55 cents. So you think, you know, man, after last week, we kind of ended on a downer on your fed cattle, and your feeder cattle futures were a little bit lower to start out the week, or actually they were lower on your back months. Your May was up a little bit, but you know, you think, well, this thing's not very good, but your real-time index based on an 8-weight steer was up 55 cents just for the one trading day on Monday. There's not many of them around, guys. And we are dwindling on our available feeder cattle, and I know we're getting to the time of the year where we don't sell very many. Not a lot of cattle moving. Everybody gets cattle turned out, even though it's bone dry down there in the southern plains. On the western side, it's not everywhere, so there is places to turn cattle out and just not a lot of cattle moving, but they're still wanting the cattle. But I'll tell you about a sale that you need to check out here on Tuesday at 1 o'clock p.m. Central. Alma Livestock Auction in Alma, Nebraska is having a fire relief sale. The manager there donated a whole semi-load of alfalfa hay, and they're going to have a rollover hay sale there at Alma Livestock Auction, and going to be giving that money to the local volunteer fire departments that work so hard to save their communities, save their homes and their farms, and get those fires put out that they had here a couple of weeks ago. So get on to dvauction.com, find out about that. They can take just a check donation or whatever. It's all tax deductible. They've got everything filled out just right. So help those people out in those small communities. That's what the sale barns do, guys. They help keep the small communities alive, helping one another. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards, 6,100, which is a pretty good amount of cattle, but that's a light run for them. Of course, we're getting into that time of the year, but had a nice sale there. Feeder steers weighing over 800 pounds, steady to $3 higher. Under 800 pounds were $1 to $4 lower. Feeder heifers were kind of unevenly steady there. But calves, $4 to $8 higher, especially if they were weaned and ready to turn out somewhere. But stick out sale in Oklahoma City from National Livestock, they sold 55 head, 784 pound steers at $161. So not too bad, even though that was included in the trend part that was lower. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 4,100 head. That's a lighter run for them too. Calves sold steady to $6 higher. Yearlings mostly steady and a lighter test. But they did have some that sold pretty good, and I saw a stick out sale on there. In Joplin, 65 head of 816 pound steers bring 157. That's very respectable. How about Russell Livestock in Russell, Iowa? They had 4,000 head up there themselves, if they've kind of been going every other week. Compared to 2 weeks ago, calves were $2 to $8 higher, but the feeder weight's steady to $5 lower. Of course, a lot of those guys are busy in the field right now. They don't want to take any cattle even for your farmer feeders there, but your full decline on your feeder cattle was on the heifers. But a stick out calf sale in Russell, Iowa was 77 head of 544 pound steer calves, bring 212. That's pretty good. How about Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota? They feature the big feeders up there. How about 108 head of 897, or basically 900 pound steers at $157.75? But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Monday, your Rowgrow top quote for the day, come out of Aberdeen in South Dakota. Aberdeen livestock sales out on the highway there. 75 head, 716 pound steers bring $190. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.